Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to today's edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called All That Is for Tourists, written by Spartan R259. Humanity, Terrans, Earthlings, known by many names. Not very active or involved in galactic society, yet bound almost everywhere, and in every field imaginable. From the arts to the sciences, humans possess skills that rivaled nearly every other species, often overshadowing them through sheer diversity alone. But for all their talents, humans were rarely the leaders in any given field. There were outliers, to be sure, but many species possessed genetic advantages that gave them an edge. The frame, with the extensive and complex ear structures, were both exceptional hunters and composers. The Tarkon, tiny and dexterous, made excellent engineers. And the Judarum, tough and immensely strong, produced some of the greatest soldiers and mercenaries the galaxy had ever known. Humanity reached the stars believing that they would be special, unique amongst the cosmos. That belief stemmed largely from the home being classified as what they called a Deathworld. But to humanity's disappointment, most spacefaring races had required ambition, struggle, and adversity to reach the stars. While imperial and dogmatic civilizations were fewer and farther between, all races had fought wars, though far fewer had fought stellar ones. In the millennia since the founding of the Galactic Alliance, only 2 wars of true galactic scale had ever occurred. The latter had ended nearly 2 centuries before humanity stepped onto the interstellar stage. As a result, modern military doctrine was thin amongst most races. Still, all Alliance members maintained rapid reaction forces for so-called new arrival wars, the almost inevitable response when a species discovered it was not, in fact, superior in the grand scheme of the galaxy. Despite this, humanity was hailed as the true military might of the Alliance. At least, that was what the interceptor communications claimed. At least, that was what all the intelligence reports suggested. It was a pathetic display, Admiral Teth thought. His species was special, ordained to rule all existence. The Dinar had discovered the galactic community decades before achieving interstellar travel. They had planned, learned, and prepared. Hidden from the galaxy, they advanced their technology and meticulously mapped the conquest. And it would begin with humanity. From the command deck of a cloaked survey ship, Teth felt a rare flicker of apprehension. The Dinar Imperium's armada would need to brush aside Earth's fleets before the Imperium could firmly establish itself as the galaxy's rightful ruler. What he saw, instead, filled him with fury. The fleet, if it could even be called that, was idle. Every ship lay docked at orbital stations, systems cold and inactive. They were nothing more than dull husks that would take hours, perhaps days, to bring online. The sheer number of ships was impressive, but numbers alone meant little without readiness. From his tactical display, Tess identified roughly a dozen orbital defense platforms, the only true threats to an attacking fleet. Long, spindle-like stations armed primarily with mass-accelerated cannons and a modest array of point defense guns. He was uncertain how powerful the ordnance might be, but still marked them as priority targets. With little else to note, Teth finalized his report and prepared a data packet for transmission to the Dinar homeworld. It would be sent discreetly once the ship exited the system and slipped into the safety of the void. "Let's move, people," Teth said. "Time to execute the will of the Emperor." It only took a week. The Dinar Armada arrived in the Sol system in overwhelming force. Admiral Teth sat in the command throne of his flagship, more than 100 warships under his control, a fleet that dwarfed the pitiful human presence. When the Armada translated into system, it was a spectacle. Engines blazing, shields fully charged, weapons primed. Teth expected resistance. He expected the defense platforms to fire. He expected humanity to rise to meet him. Nothing happened. The ships in orbit remained cold. No surge in reactor output. No weapons activations. The defense platforms increased power but did not fire. The only activity was a steady stream of hating attempts. Teth ignored them all. The Armada had jumped into the system at a deliberate distance, nearly an hour's burn from Earth. The slow and crushing inevitability of conquest. a fleet designed to subjugate civilizations bearing down on what the Alliance called the greatest military power. "Sir," the communications officer called out. "Speak," Teth replied. "The hails have changed. They are requesting communication, or they will respond with force." "About time," Teth said. "These Alliance fools think everything can be solved by talking. Open the channel." "Yes, sir. Channel open." "Incoming fleet, this is Admiral Park of Earth. State your intentions or be considered a hostile force," the human voice declared in Alliance Basic. Teth chuckled. "Humanity, this is Grand Admiral Teth of the Denied Imperium. You will be the first race we annex. Resist if you wish, but you have 10 minutes before we decide for you." "Admiral Teth," Park replied slowly, "let this serve as a warning. Humanity is not weak. We will not break. If you continue on this course, we will respond. Space is vast, and attempting to rule it all will only lead to your destruction." Teth laughed openly. "Human, I have seen your defenses. That pitiful orbital fleet, if this is what the Alliance calls military backing, nothing in the galaxy can stop us." "What?" Park began. "Cut transmission," Teth ordered. "Maintain course." "Yes, sir," the 1st Brigade responded in unison. 15 minutes to optimal weapons range, the helmsman announced. No change in human posture, the sensors added. Ships remain cold. Platforms on high standby. "Then perhaps they'll earn leniency," Teth said. "Those who know their place often do." 10 minutes passed. The only noticeable change was a flurry of evacuation traffic, shuttles bearing people away from the stations. Why evacuate? Why abandon warships? "Sir," the communications officer said, "the humans are hailing us again." "For surrender, no doubt," Teth replied. "Open the channel." Admiral Park appeared on display. "No," he said tiredly. "I'm offering you a chance to surrender." Teth stared. "They've made a great mistake," Park continued. "In 2 minutes you'll understand why humanity serves the Alliance military arm. But I may not be able to protect you by then." "You bluff!" Teth roared. "I watched you abandon your fleet." "We're evacuating the civilians," Park said. "Those stations, those ships—" "Civilians?" Teth barked. "You allow civilians aboard warships?" "Yes," Park replied quietly. "Because they're not warships." A sharp tone echoed across the bridge. "Beep." "What is that?" Teth demanded. Park sighed. "Looks like my time's up. I gave you a chance." The channel went dead. "Beep, beep." "Sir," sensors shouted, "3 fleets have appeared between us and Earth. They're hailing." 3 figures appeared on the screen. "Hi, Admiral Teth. This is Admiral Brinkman of the United Earth Navy vessel Texas. Stand down." "This is Lord Halstead of the Terran Holy Order. Aboard the Excalibur. Back down now." "Commissar Chen, Human Interstellar League. Flagship blank check. You will proceed no further." Teth swallowed. "Analysis." 3 fleets of distinct design philosophies, flagships on screen. The Texas was utilitarian and bristling with weapons, massive hangars capable of launching hundreds of fighters. Excalibur was sleek and radiant, white hull, gold filigree, centered around a spinal plasma lance and layered with redundant shielding. Blank Check was smaller, faster, and terrifying. Engines and weapons far exceeding what its reactor signature would have allowed. Any one of them could cripple a quarter of his fleet. All stop," Teth ordered. The armada halted. "There is no victory here," a human voice said calmly. "Prepare to receive a delegation. Resistance will not be tolerated." Hours later, Admiral Teth finally understood. Every ship in orbit had been a museum, historic vessels preserved to teach civilians humanity's long and brutal military history. The fleets that intercepted him were only a fraction of Earth's true strength. Humanity had fought vicious wars in nearly every first contact, and he had been the first new species not crushed for it. In his report to the Emperor, Teth included scans of 3 flagships of his final assessment. What kind of species turned warships into tourist attractions? Only one so utterly devoted to war that it treated its tools of destruction as monuments. End of story. Story number 2. Ruthless, written by New VS, Eta NVM. Humans, your civilization sprawled under the Empire's zone of control. You are to provide us tribute of 1,000,000 of your own. They'll serve us, obey our every command, and serve our every need. You have one of your local days to comply or face war. It wasn't elegant, but it was effective. Evolution is ruthless, and ruthlessness breeds ruthless men and slugs and crabs and those arseholes from the Trenor Y who think they're funny to crank up the grab settings on the weightlift and upload the footage to Blip-Blop or proof Lurarians can fly. The recipe to win the game of natural selection was known. Innovation, aggression, a pinch of paranoia, and another of tribalism. Find tools for survival in an arena of your biosphere. But when said arena can no longer contain you, these same tools become instruments of destruction, yours and others. A lesson we were taught many times before. The test was simple. Demand a significant number of their individuals under the threat of annihilation. Most gave in. Intelligent species understand that a civilization capable of crossing the distance between the stars has little problem crushing ones who can't. Giving up a few of their individuals is a small price to pay for the survival of the whole species. It's only logical, and ruthlessness cannot be allowed among the stars. Once the offer was accepted, the planet was sterilized. The captives brought to study and evaluate if they could be reconditioned to live within acceptable parameters of galactic community. If they couldn't, effective, not elegant. But every now and then, we got another answer. The right answer. Come and get us. Aggression, paranoia, tribalism, buying tools for battle. Life amongst the stars is not a battle. In the vastness of space, resources are effectively endless, except for the rarest, most precious of them all, life itself. Every now and then we came upon a civilization, 1 in a million, who understood that. Not the humans. The test was set. The answer came quickly, posted on LinkedIn. We did. What followed was not a coordinated response from a singular centralized authority, but a swarm of poorly coded nanobots, from refusing our command, some accepting, but most of all, a series of attacks of, to be honest, not insignificant psychic damage. How dumb do you have to be to figure out interstellar travel before remote work? No job description, payment benefits. Who posted this? A space toddler? How awful of an empire you need to be if you have to go to another planet to find someone willing to work for you. The test was reshaped to fit the peculiarities of such a particular species. Humans, your whole species is subject to the empire, and 1,000,000 of your own shall be given to appease us. 1,000,000 individuals who will cater to our every need, submit to any of our desires, obey us without question, and nothing in return. For we are the masters of this galaxy, and your whole kind is nothing but cattle, ours to do as we please. The response didn't take long. When did this app become space Tinder? Job hunting wasn't dystopic enough. Now we have to deal with sci-fi smut spam. Dude, humans are space bastards that way. Again, we looked puzzled at the answers. Our xenologists tried to untangle the cryptic responses, while our AIs scoured the human databases for a pattern that could make sense of their posture. Eventually, a consensus was reached to send our demand to a virtual gathering place named Tinder, although we were not yet comprehend how to facilitate encounters in outer space. Galactic Empire looking for 1,000,000 partners in search of lifelong commitment to eternal servitude, must be fit, obedient, and willing to self-sacrifice for the good of their species. Hundreds of millions of individuals were swiped, and nothing. Thousands of diplomats, xenologists, soldiers stood before their screens, waiting for the notification of a match that didn't come. The deadline came and went without a single volunteer. We waited, certain that a failure in the human communications must have prevented the response from reaching us. Nothing. Our engineers double-checked and triple-checked the settings in search of block or auto-response that would explain the planet-wide silence. Nothing. Puzzled, we scoured the human databases for a reason to their silence. We wished we hadn't. r/Dompels, Epic Xeno dating fail, 5.8 million upvotes. Top comments, uneven number of tentacles. Ick. Can I anal probe you? Pretty please. Oh, come on. Next time, try holding a space fish. Aggression, paranoia, tribalism, find tools for battle. What we found on Earth was not a battle. It was a massacre. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, and bioweapons never stood a chance against the waves of psychic warriors thrown our way. An entire civilization dedicated to crush our will, to fight, to persevere, to live. We should have sterilized the planet. We looked at the fleet commander. She stood at her post, curled up in a ball, sucking her own tentacle. We understood. Half of us felt the same urge. The other half was already at it. We left, never to return, never to forget the horrors suffered at the orbit of the pale blue dot in the sky. All of us fearing the day this blue dot could no longer contain its ruthless inhabitants. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.